What's up, Lego builders? Welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios. I'm currently building a giant Lego Sci Fi City, and today it's time to usher in the apocalypse as I begin adding serious damage and destruction caused by the mech and human armies battling for control of Moenia Prime. We'll also be descending to the lower levels to see the roadways come together, and I'll be building some pretty sweet futuristic bridges. Those of you wanting a Lego graffiti are in for a real treat, so don't forget to open fire on that like button, and let's get building. I've come to really enjoy going through my Bricklink hauls because of all the cool new parts I've been buying. Back in the days of clone bases and droid invasions, it was all hordes of the same dark tan and gray parts, but now if I see something interesting or weird, I get it. I put an emphasis on graffiti this time around and found these cool yellow panels, one of which had a red creature skull that I like to think is a dramatic recreation of an old bioform nightmare. I'm blown away with how many different sticker pieces Lego has made over the years. Being a mostly Lego Star Wars fan, a lot of the pieces and prints from other Lego themes have come and gone unnoticed to me, until I stumble upon them in a Bricklink store, some looking very cool and interesting, and others have me wondering what drugs Lego was on while making them and how do I get some. These trans green cylinders are for Lantern Industries headquarters, which I really want to get started on soon. I just need to finish planning what it's going to look like. I found these beautiful magenta pieces and immediately knew I needed to make one of the apartment pods this color. I saved the best for last though. I've known about these giant missile fins for years but never had any, and I've dreamed of making some giant ICBMs that could send a small civilization back to the Stone Age or drop a ton of candy depending on what they're filled with. These are for a large mech coming soon. With that out of the way, it's time to sling some tile. I'm gonna finish that plateau I started in the last city building update, starting by tiling off the entire top. This will function as the roads and walkway for people getting around, and at first, I thought about adding different colored tiles into the ground to designate different roads, but quickly realized that would look so confusing because there are so many different directions and routes people can take. I left two large holes because, as the video title suggests, it's not a great time to be a citizen here. I built these two craters to help represent that. I tried two building styles. One is mostly made out of brick and slope for a very chopped, chunky look, and the other one is more traditional, using wedge plates and slopes to create a roundish hole, which I think is the better of the two options. These will be placed in each hole, then I'll add more slopes and plate to fully integrate the damage in with the surrounding area. Once the finale arrives, I'll add more rubble in and around the craters. Something big got a little too close to one of the corners, causing it to crack and break off, leaving this jagged scar behind. Man, I forgot how much fun making battle damage can be. The plateau is now fully tiled off and I can start adding the buildings. I built this apartment a while back, which is a series of stacked rooms with pod-like balconies and windows protruding from the sides. I liked it so much I started building a second one, and I can finally put those magenta pieces to good use. I didn't own a single piece in this color before the Bricklink order, so I don't have a lot to work with. Things are looking good though. I had the entire bottom half with the railing part and the window in, but when it came time to build the roof, I realized I'd miscalculated when ordering, and just like the Star Wars sequels, was missing a few key components for success. So this will have to wait for another day. That's not a huge deal though, because a lot of pods on this apartment are still unfinished. As long as the core structure is done, I can put it on the plateau with the other one and add the finishing touches later. This is all looking pretty good so far. I wanted to have two buildings to fit as much stuff onto this plateau as possible and better fill out the city, raising up its skyline. People need a way to get from the parking garages below up to their homes, so in one corner I'm going to build an elevator. I chose red and yellow for the color scheme to match the red lines on the road and the red uniforms of the city workers. I decided to make the city transit department all the same color to make it feel more official and so people can designate it easier to send in compliments or more likely complaints to the city. I thought this would be the perfect spot to add one of those yellow graffiti pieces, and the sides are going to be all glass to help it feel less claustrophobic inside. These Lego barcodes used in the Mario sets will make great scanners for opening doors and downloading information. This will scan your phone, opening the elevator doors and lowering to the correct floor your car is on. These barcodes will be sprinkled throughout the city to make it feel more interactive and high-tech. This wouldn't be much of a city without places to eat, and the pizzeria is still in progress, so I'm going to build a noodle bar. I love street food, and while living in Thailand, one of my favorite things to get was pad thai cooked on a stove strapped to the side of a motorcycle, all sitting next to a gutter. I found this Hero Factory mask in one of my Bricklink journeys. It's got a connection point inside, so I built some eyes that can connect to it, though it would look cooler if they could glow. This whole project started because I wanted to build a giant battle between mech and human armies, and now here I am building a quaint noodle stand with its own signature style of pink noodles. It's crazy how life works sometimes. I then assembled the rest of the logo, which is two chopsticks crossed behind a Lego pot representing a bowl. I don't have a name for this place yet, so drop some fun suggestions based on the logo in the comments. I have mixed feelings looking at this first plateau. There was enough space to include everything I wanted, and the two apartments are far enough away from each other to not look weird, while the noodle bar and elevator eat up a lot of that dead space, sort of filling in the gaps. But I wonder if I gave myself too much room to work with here. Everything feels kind of far apart, unlike the bustling, crowded vibe you would normally associate with a giant sci-fi city. The ground feels so flat, which basically confirms the fact that there's just way too much space on this plateau, so the open ground is grabbing your attention. Problem is, I don't know how to fix this. The middle is fine because that's where the main walkway is. It's these patches in particular around the buildings and over by the elevator that are the issue. They make everything feel so disconnected and distant. This should look like one big jumble of structures. Unfortunately, I don't have enough space for any more decent sized buildings, so I'm not sure what to do. Plus, once it's all finished, I'll need more room for mechs and vehicles to fight, so maybe I should just leave it as is. If you have any cool space filling ideas for me, leave them in the comments. Also, I have to leave these three edges open because that's where the bridges will connect coming from other parts of the city. And there's another problem with this plateau. There's no way to get to it. Now it's time to build some bridges so Jar Jar can slam some noodles. Originally, I wasn't sure if I was going to have streets and cars in Moenia Prime because I thought having them run through the city in a typical grid fashion was too ordinary and would make things more complicated. Eventually, I decided to build large plateaus like this and run the roads beneath them, effectively separating the road and foot traffic, making the city feel much more futuristic. That being said, the focus is still going to be on the city above, so I'm not going to do anything crazy with the roads. They're going to be made out of stacks of smooth snot brick, and I wanted to do something unusual with the lane lines instead of just doing white like every other city. I found a bunch of these 1x2x5 red bricks that when stacked create lane lines in the road, and when the road's complete and in place it looked just as I'd hoped. Driving on a road without potholes is about as rare as coming to an agreement in a debate about politics, and on top of that, Moenia Prime is under attack, so spread throughout the roadways are giant craters left by stuff falling off the plateaus or explosives. I love building battle damage like this, and I start by outlining the shape I wanted with different slopes to create the opening. And then in this case I want it to be deep, so I'm building a smaller jagged outline that will go underneath the first one, creating a jagged looking hole in the road. After that it gets affixed in place, then I'm going to add smaller wedge plates and slopes to populate the hole with rubble and debris. The middle is painfully exposed, but that's no issue because this particular crater was created by part of a destroyed mech crashing down from above. This is a good cross section of what the city's going to look like. But I don't want people having to go down and cross the street to get from one plateau to another, so it's time to build one of my top 5 favorite things in LEGO: bridges. Funnily enough, I got the idea for my bridge design while looking at LEGO tanks. I found this one made by Carter on Flickr, and I really liked the idea of using transparent doors as glass panels for the bridge walls. In fact, I think this entire image looks really cool and I want to recreate it in the finale. But I have a different idea for how my bridge is going to come together, starting with a slab of plate, which will act as the main structure of the bridge. I'm going completely flat with no arch underneath, just like the bridges I built for Makito. Lining the sides will be regular headlight bricks for attaching side panels and giving the bridge rigidity so it can span a gap without sagging. That'll be blanketed with tile and gray plate on top, forming the walkway. I was really excited to build the side panels because I get to use a fun technique involving some 1x1 lever bases. But first I need to build the side panels that'll cover the bridge and provide railings. Those will be built similar to how the ones on Makito yet again. Those were some good bridges and I'm happy to be able to reuse the pieces. I'm sprinkling in some dark orange to provide weathering as part of the bridge has been stained or starting to rust. This is where the fun really begins. I placed down the 1x1 lever bases on spaced out brackets, creating a frame of sorts which will hold glass panels. I've had these trans purple panels laying around, and at first I thought about using them for a building, but couldn't really think about how to make that happen. Then I realized there's no better use for these than as side panels on my bridges. They fit into the lever bases just right and look so cool. It gives the entire bridge an otherworldly feel, and the trans purple meshes with the gray and dark orange nicely. A match made in heaven. I made some advertisements that can connect to the side walls, allowing companies to shove their products in the face of every passerby, because if I've learned anything from today's society, it's that the future is ads, unless you're rich enough to afford a premium subscription to life. I also built a little pizza ordering kiosk because I was hungry while building. Not all bridges will be the same size, and now that I have the design figured out, I want to make some that were partially destroyed to block enemy forces access to a certain plateau. I think everything being connected by only bridges will make the battle above more interesting from a strategic point of view and limit how certain units can be deployed, because not all of these bridges will be tank or mech friendly. The plateau is looking so much better. After much pondering, I realized I must have accidentally channeled my inner introvert and germaphobe while building because everything has way too much personal space. The best way to improve this plateau is to just fill it up with as many random things as possible. Trees, garbage cans, vendors, and signs. I was missing the non-flashy stuff that often goes unnoticed but is so critical to making a realistic looking city. These builds ate up a lot of that empty space and made the whole plateau feel more alive and look like a mini ecosystem thriving within a larger organism. I plan to add more stuff like a restaurant above the garage elevator, and eventually more small shops squished up against this building. I'm in love with the bridges. Longtime viewers know that I love a good bridge build, and these turned out even better than I imagined. Using those trans purple windows as side walls screams sci-fi build, and they'll give the whole city a unique pop of color. However, the gap underneath the panels could be a problem if careless people use it as a garbage slot. Surprisingly, I used pretty much all the sticker pieces I bought on just these two bridges, so I'm gonna need a lot more if I want to fully deck out the many paths and bridges of Moenia Prime. I've got amusement park ads, grocery stores with their own mascots, mobile pizza ordering kiosks, even the news, that way everyone can be depressed while out for a walk. Let me know in the comments which of these advertisements is your favorite. I went from very disappointed to very happy in this update. I'm a very neat and orderly person, all the way down to the way I think and look at LEGO projects and just the world in general. I can have a very grid-like, compartmentalized view of the world, and that really hurts me when it comes to designing a city. They're a messy jumble of life and don't always make sense, so I need to learn how to tap into a more jumbled, freeform way of building if I want this project to succeed. Easier said than done, I know, but I made some serious progress this week and I'm feeling a lot better about things. That's a wrap for this update. Don't forget to let me know what you think of Moenia Prime down below in the comments, and until next time, happy building.